Thanks for stopping by. Ate you for dinner here. Also, my name is Ryan. This will be my first YouTube video. I've been a beta player of Warcraft Rumble since I believe last year. Did quite a bit in the beta before this in 0.95, and then right now I've got quite a bit of progression. I currently have about to hit 135 sigils, maybe tonight later on stream. Just to let you know, also I do stream on Twitch and broadcast to YouTube as well, hopefully other platforms in the future. This is a guide that I basically feel should be pretty good for newer players. These are my most used units, I would say, or most versatile units. One thing I really like about this game is you can use units, basically almost any. You can, almost build a deck around them, whether it be lower cost units to cycle to your bigger units. It kind of depends. So throughout the PvE campaign, there are units that I tend to use a lot more than others. There are units that I use specifically for certain maps that made it very, very easy. And then there's other units that I just hadn't used as much, and then other units that I haven't used as much, but I know a lot of other people like. So instead of doing your traditional S, A, B, C, D tier, I have what I've most used, what can carry a fight, what can be used in most decks, about at least 50%. Minis that I've used, I've used like maybe in one or two fights, or maybe specific decks for specific reasons. For example, it could have been the dungeons, right? And then minis that I've never used. So this video, the intention is to be kind of a short and sweet. Just gonna have all of the minis here right off at the beginning. Not gonna do it one by one. They aren't necessarily in a specific order. Some of them kind of are, especially when you go to like the most used can carry a fight. I'll try to keep it pretty brief. The plan is for future videos to kind of break it down per faction, just to make it with like favorite talents, things like that. And then you could even break it down into just a guide about a specific mini and different ways to fully utilize them. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I would say, my favorite units, of course, you're going to start off with the Kobold minion. It's in every deck. It's free, costs 1 gold, and is used to push down a lane and get extra resources, right? The big thing about this game is controlling resources, and sometimes it's not even pushing down lanes, it's going right for the boss. That's one big thing that I would say is, in some strategies, it is not about slowly controlling the map. Whereas like in other modes that it might be, sometimes it's just defending and then attacking the boss from afar. There could be guides in the future for specific maps for the campaign. What I like about this game is there's just so many things. There's so much knowledge that I have that I can share with anybody. Again, hit me up on Twitch. Try to stream most nights live. Always can ask questions. But all right, let's go. All that preamble is through. So again, most used units. I have Kobold Miner. It's in every deck. Now, next one you're gonna have is gonna be the Whelp Eggs. So Whelp Eggs has a lot of uses. I plan on having it my first legendary unit, for example. It can be used to slow down things. It can be used to attack. There's just different ways to utilize it for 3 gold, and it's unbound. There's a lot of control, and it can really make some fights very easy. Next one is probably one of the most famous units, especially in PvP. Again, this is a PvE guide, but the Safe Pilot, lots of uses, very aggressive, can be used defensively. Just overall, a really strong unit for, again, only 3 gold. After that, we are going to have the Harpies, which I would say is probably one of the best attacking units in the game. I think of them as little glass cannons. Again, 3 cost unit, really, really good. Next, the last one in my most use, basically almost any deck for any of these units would be the Quillbore for 2
And
gold,
they say chivalry is dead.
2 gold, thank you. 2 gold unit. It's unbound, can be used to distract towers. It's very tanky and really, really strong against elemental damage. Now the next tier is going to be units that can definitely carry a fight. We're going to go ahead and start off with the Defias Bandits. For 1 gold, it helps cycle your deck faster, can be used to stun units off your tower, so your tower takes less damage, can stun units in attacking, just absolutely obliterate enemies. They aren't able to do anything for at least 1 second. If you can get both of them on someone, great. There's talents to make it do different things. Really strong unit. Next one is going to be your Miner for 2 gold, unbound. Think of it like another version of a Kobold. 1 extra gold, but you place it wherever you want. You can throw it behind enemies. Has more health than the Kobold Miner, of course. Talents can make it do different things. Really, really strong unit. Definitely, all these units, I would say, in the first 2 columns are immediate buys for new players. Next one is going to be the Gargoyle. It's the first 4 cost unit, so it's going to cost a little bit more. It's a flying unit, so melee units do absolutely nothing to it. It has a ton of health. It is siege damage. It trucks bosses and towers. Next one after that is going to be the Banshee. It is a 4 cost unit that will basically switch a unit sides for you. It will take over it. In the PvE, it's absolutely huge. You can use it on almost every single enemy other than, of course, the boss unit. Does still damage to them. It just doesn't turn it around. You can absolutely abuse fights with this unit alone. Really, really strong unit for PvE. After that, Execute, same thing. Taking 50% off of any unit's health. So I wouldn't use it on like a low cost unit, of course, but on like the big abominations, Molten Giants, it towers 50% as well. Thanks for the follow, Pillarist. It is really, really strong. Talents can make it crazy OP, trust me. Execute for the PvE campaign is huge. Right after that, we do have the Meat Wagon. It has about the longest range in the game. You can literally hit towers and bosses without it being an aggro range. The Meat Wagon for 3 cost can do an absolute ton of damage. Just make sure you protect it. And what other unit is good at that? Of course, the Quillbore that I talked about. You throw that thing right before things start to hit it, and it just starts popping off. Right after that, you have a good flying unit. It's going to be the Drake. Does big AoE bursts. Really strong talent. I like dropping eggs. Again, separate video, but really, really good unit just to like absolutely annihilate melee units, right? Melee can't attack flying. After that is going to be a starting unit, the Darkspear Troll. 3 gold ranged unit, does a lot of damage. An absolute lot of damage. I've had this unit just destroy towers as I'm dropping Quillbores while Big's behind it. It just is very, very consistent. There's some good talents. After that, you do have the Pyromancer. Thank you everybody for the follows. It is a really strong unit in the fact that, again, it's 3 costs, similar to the Darkspear Troll, but this one does an AoE flame blast. So if you have like harpies, anything like that that are coming in swarms, this Pyromancer can get an absolute ton of damage out. After that, you're going to have the Warsong Raider. Now, the Warsong Raider does cost 4 gold. It is a fast-moving tank that does, I believe, siege damage as well. So think of it kind of like a melee version of the Gargoyle, but this one does not ignore towers, so you can actually take chests with it. There's a talent on it that reduces tower damage by 50%. It's absolutely nuts. Can carry a lot of the campaign once you get that talent. After that, you are going to have the Prowler for the last one that can carry a fight. It's a fast-moving beast tank. Can sprint past things, kind of like does a little dash. It's great. It's a really strong unit. Again, all of these units have talents that make it do different things, but that is a unit that I really, really like. Now we're going to go into that third tier that I have that can be used in about half the decks. These units I may have used a lot, or I know that people use a lot. For example, we're going to start off with the Earth Elemental, another Unbound tank. This one is armored, so while the Quillbore for 2 cost is really strong against things doing elemental damage to it because it's resistant, whereas this one is tankier in the different way, like towers just trickle it. One thing to note that it is a siege damage unit, so it will ignore chests. You can't control the map, whereas that's why I have the Quillbore higher. But it is a strong unit, and I know a lot of people that like to flip them in and out depending on the fight that they're going into. Again, this is a PvE campaign. You're going to know generally how it goes for the most part every single time. After that is the first big boy as far as gold cost goes at 5. The Huntress is a big damage dealer. Going through the campaign, I know you fight her a couple times. That cleave damage that she does, the glaive toss, does a good amount of damage, like a lot of damage. If you let her go down, she can absolutely annihilate your swarms. So vice versa with attack, she can do a lot of damage. I just don't have her in every deck because of the cost. It's kind of hard to cycle around. Again, you can build around it. That's where basically this tier is it can be pretty good. But for some reason or another, I didn't use it a lot of the time. Right after that, you're going to have a 4 cost tank, charges through stuns, really versatile. Whereas the one that can carry a fight, it's the talent that kind of puts it in that tier. This is another strong unit as well. Just make sure you're basically using it right. It's a tank. You put things with it. It charges in. It does a lot of damage, but it's a melee unit. So just make sure you have some air support or spell right behind it. Next up is going to be the Raptor in the Beast family. This has a unique mechanic where it has 1 gold, but you can throw it again after that for 2 gold. You can use it as a cycle to swap to something else, and it goes away. It clears the space. Different ways to use it. Can do a lot of damage, especially if you get a couple out and they aren't being ignored. The damage ramps up quite heavily. After that, you have your Flying Bat Rider, flying unit, and it only drops pools of lava on the floor. So really good for clearing up ground units, but doesn't have that much health and ignores flying units. So it has its uses, but I don't use it in every deck. It just depends on the fight that you're going onto clearly. After that, it is a good spell. I just didn't happen to use it as much. For example, Execute can just absolutely turn a fight or win a fight, basically. The Chain Lightning does have its uses. That's why, again, it is in this row. 2 cost gold, just quick AoE, can clear out chickens like whelp eggs. It's a good spell. Just again, not something that I used all the time. After that, you're gonna have your Holy Nova, which does just like WoW, it does damage and heals you. Don't know why my head couldn't wrap around that for a while, but is a good spell. Has some talents that can be pretty strong. It's just, don't use it as much. It's just like this next one, the Goblin Sappers. There's sometimes you can just have it, throw it out, it takes out a tower for you, easy peasy, but sometimes the mechanics of the map just don't allow it. It just dies too easily. There's ways to slow it down. So good unit, just not used all the time. Blizzard is one of my favorite spells. However, for 4 cost, some things I just tend to use a little bit more. Again, if I'm going to have a spell in the deck, I try not to have too many. I like to kind of push and be aggressive. Blizzard, you can, but again, it's not a unit. It's not staying around, building on value, but it is a strong spell, possibly able to root things with a talent. It does a lot of damage if something stays in it. Like you can just AoE cleave a tower when you're attacking. Has its uses. Just for 4 gold, there's more versatile things that I like to use. For example, this next unit, just throwing down basically the ground version of the Bat Rider. but at 4 gold cost, just flinging waves out isn't something that I use very often. But again, it does so much AoE damage, just big waves of flames that is shooting out. The Flame Warden, decent unit. Just like after that, the Murlocs, they for only 2 gold, range damage, and you have 2 guys throwing the spears out, can take out a chest for you. Pretty good unit. There's just other units that I like that happen to be a little bit stronger. For example, the next one, the Griffin Rider, at 2 gold cost, being a flying unit that has actually some pretty good range with the talent to make it even longer. It is just a good cycle card. It just, again, depends. It's not winning a map for you, right? It's very versatile. That's how all this tier is. It's versatile, it's good, but it's not a like instant unit you're trying to take out to epic. It's an eventual unit. You want to maybe get it to rare, but everything else above it is stronger. After that, you're gonna have the Ogre Mage at 5 cost. Is a little expensive. It does AoE burst similar to the Pyromancer. This one has more health. It does give other units bloodlust, just like in World of Warcraft. It makes them attack faster. So it can be built around the cost, and sometimes it can be really good. But again, everything else needs to be lower, especially with some of the leader costs, right? That you might just have too many high cost units. But Ogre Mage is a pretty decent unit. After that, you do have the Shaman, which can, of course, be a very useful, just like the last one. This one is your 1 unit, other than the spell, that can heal other units rather than the Mountaineer, which I'll get to. There's a talent that makes it pretty good that you can almost want it in a lot of decks, and that's kind of why I have it in this one. Just that AoE heal, Chain Lightning is very, very useful. After that, you do have the Worgen, which is an unbound assassin. Basically, look at it like that. You can drop it behind, take out some like the Huntress. It just does a lot of damage up front. Sneak it behind, hit on it on a mage, especially if they're already aggroed on something. Once they're aggro, they're not going to just switch unless it has taunt, and there's not really many ways to taunt currently in the game. So throw this behind a unit, really good. Again, it has its uses, but it's not like in every deck kind of unit. Nearing the bottom of the list, we do have the 1 or 2 decks. So these units I used, and I know that you can use them. I just really didn't use it very often. Starting off with the Buzzards, their cost is why I used it in like a Chargo cycle deck. They're all right. They have like no health, as I'm sure if you're going through the campaign. But if they are ignored, then there's value, but like also you can get that value with other things. After that, you do have the Corehounds, one of my favorite units in beta. We got it a little bit later. I think mine is at rare, so it's good. But 6 gold cost again. That is, over half your energy in 1 use, and sure, you have 2 tanks going out. It's just not how I played it personally. It's just a lot of gold. Personally, I don't really like the high gold units. After that, you do have the Skeletons. There was some decks specifically that were able to really good, plug them in. Being an unbound unit, it does have its uses. There's a talent that makes it pretty good, but again, it's a little more niche. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a unit you don't want to use, especially if you have it early. It's okay, but getting all the way to my sigil count, I just again didn't use it very often. After that, we do have the Harvester Golem, I believe is what it's called, the good old Westfall unit. For the tank, 3 gold. It's okay. It's not unbound, but it does like come back to life, so it can kind of lose aggro and then come back. I don't know. It's okay. It's a unit you can use. Just again, didn't really mess with it too much. After that, Polymorph, There was a deck or two where it was actually really good, or like a map specifically. You just get rid of units, basically. They're just standing there in a sheep, drop down a safe pilot on it or something, or just use it to slow it down. It's okay. Not the best, or at least in how I like to use it. Again, this is a PvE list. After that, with Cheat Death, there are, for example, some uses for this. Again, not widespread, at least in how I like to use it. Specifically, I'm thinking like Murloc decks where you just have a huge wave going down. You drop this on it just so it doesn't die. You can get out quite a lot of it. Again, if you have 10 units out there and they're about to kill everything, dropping this on it gives them extra time to do all that damage. It can be nuts, but like the odds of use just aren't that strong. Next one, Arcane Blast. If you're using it to cycle, 1 gold cost, sure, right? Just a little poke, maybe take something out of stealth with it. Like Blood Mage Thanos is what I'm thinking on, using it multiple times to level him up. Again, that's a specific unit that I'm using it for, so that's why it's in the 1 or 2 deck slot. After that, the chickens. Now, I do like the chickens sometimes when it comes to like doing the surges. I've used it in like a Chargla deck to cycle, but other than that, just didn't find much use for. They just can be killed there's so many things that can kill it. Any type of AoE, they're just instantly gone, and that gold is gone. After that, you are going to have this little guy, Tanky Boy. Now, again, talent, I use the talent, so he costs 1 less gold, so he's at 2, and then that's when I used him. But outside of that, it's just I'd rather have an unbound tank to control than a tank that's just slowly moving down. Again, the unit right after it, same kind of thing with the ghoul. It's just a unit I don't have control over. It's slow. If I'm gonna have a low cost tank, I like the versatility of being able to use an unbound. After that, the Firehammer was another unit that I really liked early game. That Fury is crazy. If you just have it chucking, it's just attacking faster and faster. Can shred some units, but it costs 4 gold, so just didn't use it in most of my decks. After that, the Necromancer. Personally, I used it in Baron, and that was about it. To use, the synergy. I'll go into deck building guides later, but this one, spawning units, the longer it's out there, it gives you more value. But if it gets killed early, it feels real bad. And there's a lot of things like Safe Pilot that's run in a lot of decks that can just, get rid of it, and the PvE will Safe Pilot it. I've had it happen. A little more niche. Again, that's why it's in this part of the tier list. After that, Smoke Bomb. I mean, it's okay. 1 gold, cycle. Again, just use it for maybe Murlocs to have some unit ignore it as it runs past it. I'm thinking like a flying unit. It's okay as a cycle, but is it really carrying me? Not as much. I'd rather have more control in different ways. That's why it's here. After that, I only use this big fire spell. I think it's 6 gold cost. It's huge, specifically in a dungeon. Can't remember the dungeon off the top of my head, but huge big wave. Throw that thing down. It just obliterates everything. But at 6 gold for that spell, there's nothing left on the field. That's it. All right, cool. I killed your thing, but now I don't have gold, and you threw out the minis before, right? The AI, but I don't know. It just costs too much for what it does, personally. After that, Skeleton Party. Again, I just happen to not use as much. I've seen some people run it. It wasn't as popular for me. Being unbound's kind of cool, but again, 4 cost unit. I like something with a little bit more versatility. After this one, the Fire Elemental is a decent tank. You don't have control over it, but it is, I believe, resistant, and that it does an AoE swing. Not talking about talents that just put out a good amount of AoE pressure. Just again, on how I liked to play the game, I'd rather do an Unbound or something with more versatility than just damage. I have other units that are going to do damage, for example. This last tier are just units I didn't happen to use, whether it be maybe I didn't get it early enough, or these units just cost a lot, or there's other things that do the same thing. Just go through it real quick. Yeah, the Spiderlings, 3 units. I've had a friend play it, and I've watched them play as a new player, and it actually was very good for them. Just not something I played around with too much. I thought they had less health than they did. It might be something I might play around with later. Just inexperienced in it. After this one, with the Farmer, the little Lobber does AoE. Think of this as the ground version of the Bat Rider, but this is poison, doesn't leave a fire pool. So poison damage is stacking. That's cool, but this guy's range, and he like lobs it up. He's just so susceptible to damage. I just didn't happen to really use him. I didn't like it, especially later on in the campaign. But your luck might be different. After this one, High Mountain guy healing his bear. He costs 6 gold. And you already know how I feel about the big heavy cost units. I know in the campaign I like dropping a safe pilot on him, so then the bear is just a tank, and you know, easy to deal with, super easy to deal with. The PvE will drop stuff on you. Wasn't as big of a fan, mainly because of the cost. Same thing with this next guy, big huge elemental tank. I believe it's another 6 cost unit. Just, he is crazy. Like, he is hard, quote unquote, to take down when you fight him in PvE. It's just like some maps have Banshee. You have 6 gold is just half your unit, and I just didn't like playing with him as much. Same thing, minion after that, 5 gold for 4 tanks can be good. I like to cycle more, be a bit more aggressive rather than the slow push in the PvE campaign. Again, this part of the tier list is just, I'm explaining more of like why I didn't try it, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I just don't have experience with it. After that, A-Bomb, 6 gold unit, hook people in, think of kind of like the Butcher. Again, the cost is why I didn't use them as much. I know that there's ways you could build a deck around them to make it a little bit more fun, but I'd rather have, I don't really like anything above the 4 gold costs. I know I may sound like a broken record. Sorry about that. After that, you have Gunts. Guess what? They cost 5 gold. There's some talents that can make them good. I just didn't seem to favor them as much. For all of the reasons I've probably explained 5 times. I do want to apologize for that. Just trying to shoot this raw. And I will have other videos going over why I like how I use the units. I'll break it down by leader, talents, all of those, more to come. I just wanted to come up with something quick and easy, something visual. You can pause, not that you need to pause. I have the static image. I'll try to have video breakdowns per tier coming up on the YouTube. Should be good to go. Again, thanks everyone who may be watching, everyone that's stopping by and supporting on the live stream. Again, live on Twitch, socials in the description. And thanks for stopping by.